A few months before my visit to Japan in late September of 2018, I came across a newspaper article discussing an inn where visitors claimed to have encountered a Zashiki Warashi, a supernatural being resembling a child believed to reside in old Japanese houses and bring good fortune to the occupants. Intrigued by the possibility of experiencing this phenomenon firsthand, I made the decision to book the exact room in the inn where a previous visitor had reported a paranormal encounter. It is important to note that a Zashiki Warashi is not considered a ghost in the strictest sense, as they are typically believed to be supernatural beings more akin to nature elementals rather than the spirits of deceased children. To provide some context, let's briefly distinguish between the Japanese terms for various supernatural entities. Yokai refers to strange apparitions, while Yurei specifically denotes ghosts. In Japanese folklore, the Zashiki Warashi is categorized as a yokai, not a Yurei. However, it is worth mentioning that an alternative theory proposes the Zashiki Warashi may indeed be the spirits of departed children. I will delve into this theory later in this video. In a previous video, I discussed another yokai known as the Kappa, which also holds significance in Japanese culture. In a future video, I plan to explore other famous Japanese yokai. If that interests you, please consider subscribing, liking, and hitting the notification button. For now, let's focus on the legend of the Zashiki Warashi and my personal experience staying in the inn. The name Zashiki Warashi originates from the combination of zashiki, referring to the guest room in a traditional Japanese house typically adorned with tatami flooring, and warashi, an archaic word for a child used in the Tohoku region of Japan. These supernatural beings are most renowned in the Iwate prefecture, and the city I stayed in, Tono, is considered a prime location due to its reputation as the city of folklore. Depictions of Zashiki Warashi often portray them as mischievous and playful spirits. They are naturally drawn to homes with children, possibly due to the opportunity for companionship. Since they are believed to bring blessings and prosperity to the household, people attract their presence by leaving dolls, toys, food, or even placing coins under the foundation posts when constructing a new house. Elderly or infertile couples, in particular, may adopt this practice, treating the Zashiki Warashi as if it were their own child. Typically, only members of the family residing in the house can perceive them, and even then, the sighting is likely to be an indistinct silhouette of a young child. Interestingly, similar traditions involving benevolent beings inhabiting homes in exchange for offerings can be found in many other cultures. For example, Celtic folklore mentions brownies, Slavic folklore speaks of domovoi, and Scandinavian folklore refers to nis or tomt. These entities assist with household chores and protect the residents, mirroring the concept of the Zashiki Warashi. Many other types of yokai are also associated with houses, buildings, or specific locations. For instance, there are the tsukumogami, objects possessed by spirits after being used for at least 100 years, and the kasobake, beings that take the form of umbrellas and can move on their own. Like the Zashiki Warashi, these entities seem to possess unique powers connected to their respective environments. While it is generally believed that interactions with Zashiki Warashi are predominantly positive, there are accounts suggesting a different reality. In actual accounts, these beings are described as potentially rude and unkempt, and prone to playing mournful Shinto tunes at night. Moreover, if they are mistreated or neglected, they can display extreme behavior. For example, there are stories of a Zashiki Warashi leaving a home, and shortly after, the family experiencing a fatal food poisoning incident. In another instance, a wealthy man's son shot a Zashiki Warashi with a bow and arrow, and the family subsequently faced a collapse in their fortunes. So, what makes the Tohoku region a hotbed for the presence of these Zashiki Warashi? Traditionally, this northeastern part of Japan has been one of the poorest regions. Before the 1930s, famine and starvation were widespread, to the point that a newborn baby was not seen as a bundle of joy but rather as an additional mouth to feed. Desperate families sometimes resorted to a clandestine practice known as usagoro, or mortar kill, where babies were killed by being crushed with a stone mortar. These infants were then buried in the dirt floors of kitchens, which could explain why burying a golden ball under the floorboards became a way to appease the Zashiki Warashi. To further placate them, treats and toys would be left in a room, which may have evolved into the current practice of leaving offerings for the Zashiki Warashi. During my visit, I had the opportunity to explore Hyachine Shrine, where many dolls dedicated to the Zashiki Warashi can be found. Similarly, a nearby school had set up an altar for the Zashiki Warashi. Now, it is time to share my personal experience at the inn. I stayed at the Minshuku for 2 nights, ironically in a room called Monomi, which means, to see things, in Japanese. The innkeepers possessed 2 dolls, a boy named Chikayuki and a girl named Yukari, believing that the Zashiki Warashi resided within them. To be fair, direct sightings of Zashiki Warashi are rare. Instead, one might consider themselves fortunate to hear children's voices and giggles, the sound of rustling paper, footsteps, knockings, or simply experience an unexplained sense of being watched. Throughout my stay, I did not witness anything unusual. However, on the second night, while contemplating whether I would ever see or sense anything from the Zashiki Warashi, a loud thud echoed through the room. To this day, I wonder if that was their way of signaling to me that they were indeed observing me, even though I could not see them. The mystery remains.